Trapmore gang, Leslie Wexner, okay, apparent close friend and client of Jeffrey Epstein, has been hauled in front of a committee to explain himself. But I am going to tell you some stuff in this video that you will not believe about this hideous reptile of a man. I don't really know how to say it. They're saying that there might have been a romantic relationship between Leslie Wexner and Jeffrey Epstein. Guys, you're not going to believe what I'm going to tell you in this video, okay? So in this video, I'm going to break down the whole history of Leslie Wexner and Jeffrey Epstein, how this guy got his money, how he got around Epstein, why some people think they were actually romantically involved together. And then we're going to touch on some of the embarrassing testimony that has come out recently. Now, you might have seen this clip going around, okay, in the recent deposition. Basically, Wexner denied any knowledge of Epstein's crimes, all right? He revealed that the FBI had never actually questioned him. Never questioned him. All these appearances in the files, never been as much as asked a question, okay? And he's still free of charges, still getting off scot-free. And his lawyer actually leaned over to him part way through the interview and he said, "I'm going to effing kill you if you answer a question again with more than 5 words." What is going on? What is this clown show that we're being witness to? Let's start with this. And then I'm going to rewind. I'm going to tell you all about his sordid come up and the alleged relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
Answer the question. 5 words, okay?
Video released Thursday of a 5-hour deposition of retail magnate Les Wexner shows the billionaire repeatedly insisting he knew nothing about Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, adding that law enforcement had never spoken with him.
Did you at any time ever consider him to be a close friend?
No. As I look back at it, I was conned by the world Olympic all-time con artist. And when you look at, I read in the news all the people he knew, royalty, kings, princes, and all that. An incredible con artist.
Has the FBI or DOJ ever directly contacted you or spoken to you about
Not to my knowledge.
Never.
Never.
Did you speak to any law enforcement agency of any kind regarding Jeffrey Epstein's investigation in New York in 2019?
Never didn't. No, I don't remember ever talking to any law enforcement agency.
At one point, his lawyer, Michael Levy, whispered some advice.
Answer the question. 5 words, okay?
What the hell is going on here, okay? The comment from the lawyer says it all. He thinks it's a joke and that he's untouchable. I hope he's wrong because he's a terrible liar. This clown is laughing at us. He knows this is theatre and nothing more will come. Let's prove him wrong. He didn't get conned. He does the conning and the nefarious stuff. I'm not going to read it out loud, but you saw what was there. This is a game for them, literally a game, acting like he wasn't the one who introduced him to powerful people. So let's take a little rewind and understand the rise of this wrinkly old fool, okay? So one of the weirdest aspects of Les Wexner, right? I'm going to take you all the way back to 1985 because this guy is a bit weird, right? This guy's a bit of a weirdo, right? He's presenting as a kooky, wholesome old man, giggling and laughing at his lawyers telling him not to say anything. He apparently claims that he is possessed by a demon, okay? Leslie Wexner's inner demon. This short excerpt from Whitney Webb's upcoming book, One Nation Under Blackmail, examines an obscure media profile of Leslie Wexner, Jeffrey Epstein's mentor from the 1980s, that contains disconcerting revelations about Wexner's personality and his inner world. This is insane, right? 1985 was the year that Leslie Wexner became a billionaire. He'd been a billionaire since the 80s. What the hell? It was also that year that the chairman of the limited, now L Brands, begun to build his public persona. This effort to rebrand himself began with a series of fawning media profiles. The main outlets that participated in Wexner's first main personal PR campaign were written by prominent New York City-based outlets like New York Magazine and the New York Times. The New York Magazine profile, which was the cover story for its August 5th, 1985 issue, was entitled The Bachelor Billionaire on Pins and Needles with Leslie Wexner. Though filled with photos of a middle-aged Wexner grinning and embracing friends, as well as lavish praise for his business dealings and his tender and gentle personality, one of the main themes of the articles revolves around what is apparently a spiritual affliction or mental illness of Wexner's, depending on the reader's own spiritual persuasion. So the New York Magazine article opens up as follows. So Let me just get myself comfortable real quick. Okay. Hang on. So this says, on the morning Leslie Wexner became a billionaire, he woke up worried, but this was not unusual. He always wakes up worried because of his diebuck, his dibbuck, which pokes and prods and gives him the itchiness of the soul that he calls spilks, pins in Yiddish. Sometimes he runs away from it on the roads of Columbus, or drives away from it in one of his Porsches, or flies from it in one of his planes, but then it's back with his first coffee, his first meeting, nudging at him. What? It says one may interpret his use of spilks. I've never seen this word before. Literally pins or spikes in Yiddish, and often used to describe nervous energy, impatience, or anxiety. As Wexner merely personifying his anxiety, however, is his decision to use the word dibbuck, which he does throughout the article, is quite significant. Also notable is how Wexner goes on to describe this apparent entity throughout the article and his intimate relationship with it. Excuse me? He's got some kind of demon. Excuse me? As defined by Encyclopedia Britannica, dibbuck is Jewish folklore term for a disembodied human spirit that, because of former sins, wanders restlessly until it finds a haven in the body of a living person. Unlike spirits that have yet to move on but possess positive qualities such as the Magid or Ibba, the dibbuck is almost always considered to be malicious, which leads it to be translated in English as demon. This was also the case in this New York Magazine profile on Wexner. The author of that article, Julie Baumgold, describes Leslie Wexner's dibbuck as the demon that always wakes up in the morning with Wexner and tweaks and pulls at him. Wexner could have easily chosen to frame the entity as a righteous spirit or a Magid, or as his righteous ancestors Ibba, guiding his life and business decisions, especially for the purpose of an interview that will be read widely throughout the country. Instead, Wexner chose this particular perm, which says a lot for a man who has since used his billions to shape both the mainstream Jewish identity and its leadership in both US and Israel for decades. This shit gets deep, man. As the article continues, it states that Wexner has been with the dibbuck since he was a boy, and that his father had recognized it and referred to it as the churning. Per Wexner, the dibbuck causes him to feel molten and constantly pricked by spiritual pins and needles. It apparently left him at some point as a young man, only to return in 1977 when he was 40, half frozen during an ill-fated trip up a mountain near his vacation home in Vail, Colorado. This specific trip is when Wexner says he both rejoined with his childhood dibbuck and decided to change his life. He told New York Magazine that his dibbuck makes him wander from house to house, wanting more and more, and swallowing companies larger than his own. In other words, it compels him to accumulate more money and more power with no end in sight. Wexner later describes the dibbuck as an integral part of his genius. Wexner further describes his dibbuck as keeping him out of balance, emotionally stunted, a part of him, the precious, treasured boy-son part, lagging behind the dibbuck. This is consistent with other definitions of the term in Jewish media, including a feature piece published in the Jewish Chronicle. That article first defines the term as a demon that clings to a person's soul, and then states that the Hebrew verb from which the word dibbuck is derived is also used to describe the cleaving of a pious soul to God. The two states are a mirror image of each other. Per Wexner's word choice and his characterization of what he perceives as an entity dwelling within him, the entity, the dibbuck, is dominant while his actual self and soul lags behind and is stunted, causing him to identify with the entity more than himself. This is also reflected in the concluding paragraph of the New York Magazine article. Les Wexner picks up his heavy black case and flies off in his Challenger with his dibbuck sitting next to him, taunting and poking him with impatience, that little demon he really loves. The dibbuck turns his face. What does he look like? Me, says Leslie Wexner. I am the dibbuck. What? Outside of the spiritual aspect of this discussion, it can also be summarized from the above that there is a strong possibility that Wexner suffers some sort of mental disorder that causes him to exhibit two distinct personalities which continuously battle within him. What is astounding is that he describes this apparent affliction to the prominent media outlet with pride, and the author of the piece weaves Wexner's demon throughout that piece that seeks to praise his business acumen above all else. Yet perhaps the most troubling aspect of Wexner's experience with his dibbuck, whether real or imagined, is the fact that Wexner, in the years before and after this article published, has a massive impact on Jewish communities in the US and beyond through his philanthropy. Some of those philanthropic efforts, like the Wexner Foundation, saw Wexner mold generations of Jewish leaders through Wexner Foundation programs, while others, such as the Mega Group, see the organized crime-linked Leslie Wexner joined by several other like-minded billionaires, many of which also boast considerable organized crime connections, in an effort to shape the relationship of the American Jewish community as well as the US government with the shape of Israel. For a man of such influence in the Jewish community, why has there been essentially no questions raised as to Wexner's role in directing the affairs of that ethno-religious community, given that he's openly claimed to be guided by a Dybbuk? This is particularly odd when one considers that Wexner has come under increased scrutiny in recent years for his protege and closest associate for decades, Jeffrey E. Epstein, was outed as both a PDF and a serial S trafficker. Did Wexner's Dybbuk draw him to Epstein and prompt him to financially support his horrific crimes against minors? It's interesting. Like, what the... This guy's possessed... This dude is possessed by a Dybbuk. Okay. All the stuff that people talk about is like, oh, there's no satanic rituals going on. No, this dude is... He said he's possessed by a Dybbuk. He's possessed by a Dybbuk. What are we supposed to do with this information? Now, what's really crazy, okay? After Leslie Wexner became a billionaire with the help of his Dybbuk, 1985, making his billions, he's rich as hell. By 1987... Jeffrey Epstein and Leslie Wexner's professional bond would begin. Okay, Wexner would hire Epstein as his sole financial advisor, granting him sweeping power of attorney with seemingly not that much experience. Like, what was Epstein doing that was so good up until this point? It's crazy.
So just describe for our viewers this relationship between Wexner and Epstein.
Incredibly unusual. Mr. Wexner is one of America's really great businessmen. He's the wealthiest man in Ohio. He founded this company with $5,000 loan from his, or $5,000 from his aunt, and built it into a $5 billion, just enormous success story. And he's been a very private and private person, and but an enormous philanthropist. And somehow, and he acknowledges this, he agreed to hire Jeffrey Epstein to manage all of his finances, and even gave him power of attorney to buy and sell real estate for him, make financial transactions for him, and said earlier this year that he had discovered that Epstein had stolen many millions of dollars from him. Now, he had never said anything back at the time when Mr. Epstein was working for him, or when they parted ways over a decade ago. He only said something recently when Epstein was again arrested.
And the thing about Wexner is, because he was such a successful businessman, I think in some of the things that I've read about it, at least, he sort of was able to give Epstein some legitimacy when it came to investing large sums of money for the very wealthy. They thought, well, if this guy trusts him with his money, then he must be pretty decent. So
Les Wexner and his Dybbuk, all right, they got down with Jeffrey Epstein. They basically gave him credibility, gave him access to all of his money, all right, whole thing, all right. People saying, who doesn't report someone who embezzles millions of dollars from them? Someone who is being blackmailed. Well, it sounds like there could have been blackmail going on, all right. He says that he was extorted, and he says that he was shaken down, or money was stolen from him. But here's a fact that I didn't find out until very recently, and this one blew my mind. Jeffrey Epstein just walked into the role of Leslie Wexner's financial advisor with very little experience. Well, it makes you wonder, who was managing his finances before that? How would you feel if I told you, all right? How would you feel if I told you that the guy that was managing Leslie Wexner's finances before Jeffrey Epstein came along only got murdered under suspicious circumstances in a mob-style execution hit? I'm not joking. People, that actually happened. I shoot you not. Excuse the pun. I shit you not. This is exactly what happened. So I've got an article here about it. Okay, Jeffrey Epstein, there's much more to the story. Epstein came to my attention, we don't see that. It says the late state of Ohio Inspector David General Sturtz, one of my sources, was gathering evidence against Les Wexner and Jeffrey Epstein regarding public corruption, bribery, and information related to the murder of Columbus attorney Arthur Shapiro. The ghost of Arthur Shapiro, a prominent local attorney who was slain in a 1985 mob-style hit, all right, mob-style murder, continues to haunt the city of Columbus. Columbus Alive obtained a copy of the Shapiro homicide investigation, analysis, and hypothesis report through a public records request. The report confirms that the name of Leslie Wexner, owner of the limited brands, now L Brands, including Victoria's Secret, was linked with associates reputed to be organized crime figures. Shapiro was a partner in the now defunct Columbus law firm of Schwartz Shapiro Shapiro, Kelm, and Warren, the firm represented the limited, according to the report, and prior to his death, Arthur Shapiro managed this account for the law firm. Homicide Squad investigators described Shapiro as a quiet, shy, private, and secretive person who tended to be a loner. Just prior to his murder, Shapiro was the subject of an investigation by the IRS because he had failed to file income tax returns for some 7 years prior to his death, and he had invested in some questionable tax shelters, the report stated. His death occurred 1 day prior to Shapiro's scheduled appearance before a grand jury in the IRS investigation, and there was some conjecture that Shapiro was in position to provide information to the grand jury that would have been damaging to some other party. An entire analysis of the murder investigation is documented in the Shapiro murder file. Epstein was perceived by Sturtz and then Franklin County Sheriff Earl Smith as Shapiro's replacement. What do you know? What do you know? Yeah, you know, the guy that was doing the job before just got smoked, just got shot, just got murdered in a gang execution, just took over. Sturtz referred to Epstein as Wexner's boyfriend. Are you seeing this? Are you seeing this? Sturtz referred to Epstein as Wexner's boyfriend, but Epstein was more than that. He was an international man of mystery with ties to the CIA, the royal family, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, and others. And at the heart of it, he is perhaps our nation's most well-known PDF. Echoing Greek tragedies, Wexner with his name on more central Ohio buildings than anyone, and known for his generous philanthropy, was caught up in Epstein's human trafficking scandal. Okay. I'm speechless. Epstein and Wexner reportedly met in 1985 when they were introduced by Bob Meister, an insurance mogul. Wexner and Epstein's real estate dealings go at least back to 1989 when they jointly purchased a mansion in Manhattan described as the second largest residence in New York City. Wexner granted Epstein a durable power of attorney over all of his economic dealings in July 1991. Excuse me? In 1998, business documents identified Epstein as president along with Wexner of the New Albany Company. Epstein owned the house on King George Drive in New Albany from 1994 to December 2007 when he gave it to Wexner with no money exchange. Also in 1998, Wexner transferred his interest in their Manhattan property for $20 million to Epstein. Doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. You're just getting handed over the second largest property in New York City. Excuse me? Excuse me? Now, interestingly enough, okay, in the released files that came out later, it was claimed that Epstein actually used cryptic gang-related terminology in emails, language that Wexner was even forced to address during his recent testimony. So look at him responding to these allegations.
Epstein signs off by saying, "I believe that this information belongs to you, and under gang stuff rules, I cannot simply be the repository of people's hushed calls and not share with you." And the subject of the email is, "For Les's eyes only, please do not circulate." So the phrase gang stuff rules, is that a familiar phrase to you in this context?
Jeffrey was like a Brooklyn guy. And in hindsight, he didn't use words like have a confidential discussion or my opinion or this is secret or private or confidential, personal, things that lawyers or accountants might use in normal language. He would say this is gang stuff.
Got it. So
that was just how he talked.
So it was a phrase that Mr. Epstein would use to mean confidential conversations.
To me, yes.
Okay. And this,
I don't think I never used the other words, which in hindsight.
They're on some gang shit. He said Jeffrey Epstein was from the hood. He's on some gang shit. He didn't talk about we're going to have a confidential discussion. He said we on gang business. He said we on nation business, gang shit. What the hell am I hearing? What are we talking about? He on some gang shit. Okay. So elsewhere in this testimony, okay, Leslie Wexner would also testify that when he first met Ghislaine Maxwell in 1990, she and Epstein presented themselves as a couple that were intending to get married.
Let's move on to talking about Miss Maxwell. When did you first meet Ghislaine Maxwell?
Probably about the time that I got engaged to Abigail. So must have been about 1990.
And do you recall how you met Miss Maxwell?
Well, Jeffrey wanted me to meet the person he was going to marry, and I was engaged to Abigail, and period.
So he said Epstein was intending to marry Ghislaine Maxwell, all right, and that's how he ended up linking up with Ghislaine Maxwell. But the long-standing allegations from survivors and recently released documents would suggest that there might have actually been, and this is insane, a romantic relationship between Wexner and Epstein as well. This is going around the r/Epstein subreddit from a couple of weeks ago. It said Epstein earned his money from having relations with Les Wexner. What? So this is a bunch of sort of testimony about different people. This is Les Wexner. Steve Scully stated that Wexner was #1 on Epstein's speed dial, and blank stated Epstein earned his money from having S with Wexner. What? What the... So they're in a gang, and they're hooking up together, and I'm out of my depth. It says, as has been suspected for years, Wexner was in love with Epstein, which explains how Epstein controlled him and his money. Occam's razor strikes again. People saying, just throwing it out there that having S with him might also mean alongside. They're saying Wexner's homosexuality was an open secret, especially in Ohio. Epstein might not have been gay, but he was a sexual deviant to the nth degree and ruthless in his quest for wealth and power. A little bit of gay in stuff is a small price to pay for someone as depraved as Epstein. Oh, I don't even want... Do I want to know what's in this link? Do I want to know? Okay, it wasn't anything worth showing you. What? They're saying Epstein had power of attorney over Wexner's estate 5 years into their relationship. It's been discussed on this sub many times. How did Leslie Wexner get away with this? Les Wexner, owner of Victoria's Secret, gave power of attorney to Epstein 5 years after meeting him in 1991 and gained full control over his finances that allowed Wexner... Wexner said Epstein used it to steal enormous amounts of wealth of him, but he never reported it to the police. Only recovered a partial amount after Epstein donated to his wife's charity. Why allow all the money to be returned via a donation via the charity unless you wanted to obfuscate the financial trial? Okay, and they talk about the meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, people saying it's leverage. You're surrounding people that make you seem loyal. Money and compromise. I'm not actually seeing too many people say that they're in a relationship here. This is an interesting explanation from the gang site. It says, to make a long story short, old mafia forces basically joined up with the American government and worked together to achieve common goals. That criminal element and cooperation is at the core of this issue. Interesting stuff. They're saying Wexner is basically the king of Ohio. That's his stature in Ohio. He nationally, he's up there too. There's a lot of incentive to turn a blind eye to some things to keep him in the state. People saying Israel, Russia, Ghislaine Maxwell. I'm not seeing them in a relationship. I'm not seeing too many comments saying that they're in a relationship here. Here we go. It says, allegedly they were in a sexual relationship that was being kept under wraps. Epstein got grabby with his asset management fees and probably some related party transaction. Wexner calls him on it and they negotiate a partial return of capital. It says, factors others have mentioned as well as Wexner's infatuated and potentially even in love with Epstein in the early days. Insiders in their circle referred to Epstein as the boyfriend back then. I don't think Epstein was gay, but I think he was driven enough to play the part for that level of wealth. There's been rumors in Ohio for decades that Wexner is closeted. Before you downvote me, realize this has been discussed here many times for years. No shade intended to OP, but versions of this post have appeared here pretty often. There's odd timing for Wexner to get involved with two Mossad agents just at the perfect time for them to start a honeypot. Your explanation is he must have had the hots for Epstein. I don't know how that explains excluding him from the investigation either. There's a weird theory. Okay, so that rumor has been going around for some time, I guess. Okay, I guess. People say, I don't think Epstein blackmailed him, and not least first. Groomed him, yes. Wexner was known for being a weird and reclusive billionaire. He was a perfect mark. Right? Now we know what Victoria's Secret is. It's okay. Look, it's crazy, right? Now, during the deposition, Wexner dismissed these claims as fabrications because he's completely straight, totally straight as an arrow. Absolutely no way.
Epstein earned his money from having homosexual sex with Wexner. I know you were asked this question earlier, but in the context of this FBI report, is it correct that you did not have any sexual or romantic relationship with Mr. Epstein?
Absolutely not, or any man ever. I'm very straight.
Very straight, straightest guy in the world.
Super straight.
Thank you.
No, the way he did that, the way his face just pulled when he said super straight, I'm like, nah, I don't know. He's a super straight. Guilty.
I'm very straight. Super straight.
Thank you.
I'm super straight. I'm super duper uber straight. All right.
That's wacky.
That's whack. I don't know if I'm not sure if I'm convinced by that, to be honest with you guys.
Do we get to keep that? No. I just never read an FBI report.
But thank you, Mr. Wexner, for your testimony here today.
Super straight, man. Super duper uber straight. Now, interestingly, okay, in 1985, during that same interview that he did where he revealed his demonic possession, he did actually touch on his sexual preferences. And this did have a few people giving him the side eye. So let me just show you. I've got it in my document here. I've got the original news clipping. Let me see if I can zoom into this for you guys. So, where's my little zoom tool? Okay, so it says Wexner is what used to be known as a confirmed bachelor. He doesn't feel alone. He doesn't seem to want a child. And despite what he says about the perfect woman, Ali McGraw, as she was in Love Story, someone who is very, very pretty and not aggressive, he seems to be waiting to achieve some mystical harmony and balance in himself first. A lot of people think because I'm not married, I am asexual or homosexual, but I enjoy a relationship with a woman, he says sometime later, hating to discuss this, known for keeping this part of his life very tucked away. Of course, like his social absence, this increases his mystery and allure. Only Alfred Taubman, among his friends, still constantly tells him to get married, but Wexner, whenever asked, says, me and the Pope. I mean, okay, okie dokie, buddy. All right. We'll just take that at face value. Okay. Super straightest guy ever lived. That's straight as an arrow. Don't be silly. Straight as hell. All right. He's straight as hell. Now, Wexner would actually also claim that he cut ties with Epstein around 2008 after it was discovered that Epstein had stole hundreds of millions of dollars from him. 2008, interesting year. Also the year that Epstein got caught up in the trafficking minors case that he caught. Okay, but no, it was about the money.
With respect to Epstein's theft from you, in the second half of the second paragraph, I'll read it out loud. Your attorneys, quote, explained that over his years handling Wexner's finances, Epstein stole or otherwise misappropriated several $100 million from Wexner. That misconduct, together with the fees that Epstein paid himself for his services to Wexner, appears to account for virtually all of Epstein's wealth. So several $100 million is a large but not precise figure. To the best of your knowledge, how much exactly did Epstein steal?
I don't know. I don't think I'll ever know.
I'd like to try to understand a little bit better how Epstein was able to steal or misappropriate that many funds. One way, reportedly, is that the trusts that we described earlier, which I know you said you have no recollection of, I just want to be thorough. The trusts that he was trustee of would receive gifts of limited stock, and he would then sell that stock on the New York Stock Exchange and then use a portion of those proceeds for his own personal purposes. Do you have any knowledge or recollection of what I just described?
I'm effing surprised. I'm shocked. I didn't know this.
Is it that you have not previously heard what I just described?
I never heard of it, never saw this document.
And it was publicly reported, I think, by ABC several years ago, but not ever on your radar?
Never.
Okay. The report...
Never. Oh no! Oh no! Oh, I hadn't seen this until it was on CBS. Was it on CBS? Face.
Not ever on your radar. Publicly reported, I think, by ABC several years ago, but
reported by ABC. You never heard? You really ain't? You never heard this before?
Not ever on your radar.
Never.
Okay. The report indicates that it was more than or around $1.3 billion of stock that Epstein moved around that way. Not that he kept all of that money for himself, but the total amount of stock sales was over $1 billion. You have no knowledge or awareness of that.
I don't know the amounts. The only trust that I'm aware of is my wife set up trusts for our kids, so however she set them up in the amounts, I have no idea what's in them then.
My wife. So he said he set him up with his wife, all right? So it says you got the boyfriend, you got the wife, got a whole lot going on in the Wexner house by the sounds of it, okay? Now, interestingly enough, after this deposition, members of Congress would actually come out to speak and give their opinion on what was said, okay? Basically, people would say there would be no Epstein Island, no Epstein plane, and no money to traffic girls without the financial assistance of Leslie Wexner. That was Congressman Robert Garcia making it be known outside afterwards.
It's about $1 billion that was either transferred, provided in stocks, or given directly to Mr. Epstein by Wexner. We should be very clear that the two were very close per reporting. They spent a lot of time together. Mr. Wexner admitted that he traveled to both Epstein's island as well as his other properties. Mr. Wexner also admitted that Jeffrey Epstein had access to a lot of Mr. Wexner's wealth. And when asked even simple questions, even as it relates to Mr. Epstein being the co-president of the foundation that established the area that we're in today, Mr. Wexner had little to say. In fact, it's clear that Mr. Wexner is trying to downplay how close Jeffrey Epstein and Mr. Wexner actually were. And we should be very clear that there would be no Epstein Island, there would be no Epstein plane, there would be no money to traffic women and girls. Mr. Epstein would not be the wealthy man he was without the support of Les Wexner. I think it's very important for us to note at this moment.
Insane, all right? Insane. People saying, press on Wexner, ask about the millions Epstein embezzled and why he's not pressing charges, ask why the DOJ is not investigating, because even if Wexner is not prosecuting, this is clear evidence of a wider fraud scheme where others might have been cheated, and even if they fail to lodge charges, the DOJ should investigate because that would be evidence of blackmail and or extortion. I don't know if they're going to investigate that, guys. Chaps, I'm not sure they're going to investigate it. And we're going, and Mossad, and CIA, and Dolbar, and the OSS, and Dalton School, and Space Relations, a slightly gothic interplanetary tale, and Bear Stearns, and simply just wealthy blue blood sick son of a bitches that the law does not apply to. Okay, why are we not rioting? The fact that Republicans didn't even show up blows my mind. Absolute nightmare fuel. Okay, absolute nightmare fuel. Now, Redditors would react to this testimony in detail, and there would be some funny memes that popped up, like this one. He stole $1 billion. Huh? He stole a bill? He stole $1 billion for... Oh, no. Can I get it back? Is it too late? Did he spend it? People are saying, I need some of that manure that Wex is tossing around for the tomatoes this spring. People saying, I'm effing surprised. He's good at acting like a dolt. What's with these ultra wealthy thinking that everyone has infantile minds? You have money making clothes. That doesn't make you smart. Wexner, we see straight through you. You're guilty. Just be a man. They really act like we're so stupid, right? So ever since he began working with his boy toy Jeff, let's say Les was 50 then. So ever since that age, he never checked his bank account. Someone that lives for money and craves it shouldn't be bothered to check how much he had. Maybe he let his Dybbuk check it. All right. Insane. Just nothing but complete bullshit comes out of these people. It's almost pointless to depose them. All right. Is anyone talking about how the oversight committee sent the freshman team to run this deposition? These are not experienced prosecutors. This is not the A team or the B team. Don't involve Sweet Pikachu in this. Doddering old fool act makes me so angry. Let's just assume that he's guilty of the worst crimes in the files based on how he's acting. And it's hard not to assume he was the architect, given that he was basically the one who bankrolled the whole scheme, which was, of course, a honeypot. So who directed him to create the honeypot along with Creepstein? Draw your own conclusions, all right? And there was another thread about Leslie Wexner and his involvement in what came out, saying Les Wexner said he never considered Epstein a friend, but Jeffrey Epstein spends time with his family. And this is a message. It says, after you left, Harry says, what with Boris and Natasha and his uncle Jeffrey, Rocky or Bullwinkle, funny kid. And Epstein replied to Les Wexner. He said, that was really fun. Watching your kids with you at lunch was a real treat. Okay. Eva also thought your kids were amazing. If inadvertently I've done something to either disappoint you or disturb you, I would like to apologize. I can't figure out. I miss spending time with you and your family. Bruv, can we just... Seems like something you'd only do if you were close family and friends. To me, it seems like a blatant lie under oath. They're saying the source file on the Gov website no longer exists, but it's in Jmail. Saying, yup. Also, Epstein was far more wordy here with less than he seems to have been with countless others, basically fawning over him. The ease at which these people will lie astounds me. They don't even care if it makes sense or not. Don't even try and make it believable, because at the end of the day, they don't care what anyone thinks because they know they won't be touched. Like a big middle finger to everyone not in their club. It cracks me up when Jeffrey Epstein calls other people liar. It's like, what? Epstein flew to Ohio to attend the funeral of Les Wexner's mother. They were definitely close friends. Uncle Jeffrey sounds like they're quite familiar. I'll keep it real. This one caught me off guard. I was mind blown when I found out that the previous financial advisor to Leslie Wexner ended up getting a lead sandwich, and then Epstein just took over. Are you kidding me? Are you? And then come to find out they're talking about they was romantically involved. I'm not going to lie. A lot of people have said, why on earth would Leslie Wexner just give billions, millions, properties, ridiculous amounts of money and wealth to Jeffrey Epstein? Is it because he was providing him with young girls? Is it because that he had the island parties on lock? Well, it might be the case that Les Wexner was maybe closeted, was dating Epstein. Maybe Epstein was gay for pay, and he was running it up. Keeping Victoria's Secret for real. I didn't know they sold men's underwear. I feel like Les Wexner right now. Can't believe this shit. Can't believe this shit. So look, let me know what you guys think down below. This is all just opinions of people on Reddit and, inferences from these files and people on social media. We can't prove any of this absolutely true. There's no way. I'm not saying that 100% definitively Les Wexner was in a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Not saying that Jeffrey Epstein had the other financial advisor whacked. I mean, Epstein's in the emails talk about this gang business, this nation business. Like, on King Jeffrey, I ain't never heard anything like that. That is crazy. Okay, that is crazy. So let me know what you guys think, man. I'm going to dig deeper into a couple more Epstein things. I was thinking of letting it go, but we're gonna have to keep pressing Epstein. More and more things are coming out. This deposition was crazy. It was absolute insanity. I can't believe it. Okay, let me know what you thought. I'll catch you guys in the next video. I'm out of here for now.